I'm Andrew the New Guy, and today on gameranx, we're here to talk about 5 smaller yet awesome games from June 2017 that you should check out. Starting off at number 5, we have Get Even, which is a first-person action and psychological thriller that's out for PS4, Xbox One, and PC. This is definitely more of a narrative-driven game, and it doesn't really have the strongest shooting mechanics, but you really shouldn't be picking this up expecting to get a crazy FPS. The story is a little bit everywhere, but in a good way. It's kind of intense. There's a lot going on. You play as Cole Black, a former soldier turned gun for hire, and you awaken in a creepy old psych hospital with no memory of your past. Your anonymous captor informs you that you're taking part in a unique form of treatment using a headset that allows the wearer to relive memories from their past, but in the present. But Black can only remember one thing, and that's a rescue that he attempted to pull off, where he needed to rescue a teenage girl with a bomb strapped to her chest. The game is split into 2 parts, and during that first part, you'll be doing a lot of puzzle solving, which, by the way, a lot of these puzzles aren't necessarily hard or brain busters, but some of them use really weird mechanics that makes them hard for no reason. So really, they're more annoying than hard. The second half of the game, I don't really want to mention too much because I think it's better to experience it yourself. Seeing that the narrative is the best part of the game, I don't want to give it all away here because that's what's going to keep you playing. Definitely not the combat. Like I said, don't go into this expecting to get a crazy first-person shooter because that's not at all what you're getting. And next up at number 4, we have Cryptarch, which is a 2D side-scrolling shooter with roguelite elements. Now, this game has been in early access for quite some time on PC, but it's getting its full final release and it's actually coming to PS4 now. It has a very hectic gameplay loop with enemies coming at you non-stop, and you have to always keep moving or else you'll get killed really fast. And as you make your way through these procedurally generated levels, you're going to want to be as equally aggressive as the enemies are, and you'll want to end the battle as fast as you can because it's super easy to get overwhelmed by your enemies. The game is pretty replayable with it being procedurally generated, and there's also over 70 items and weapons to use. And the music in this game is also super on point, and it's a blast to listen to, and it really adds to the sci-fi element of it, and it really works well with how the game looks. And one other thing, and I know this is very small, but the comm animations, like when one of your dudes pops up in the top left screen to talk to you, they're fully animated and their lips are synced pretty much perfectly with their dialogue. And I don't know why, but for me, that little tiny thing about this game is really cool. I'm really about small things like that. I don't know, I really like it. And coming in at number 3, we have Dead by Daylight, which, yes, I know it's technically been out on PC for a full year now, and I'm sure a ton of you have either already played it or watched it on Twitch or YouTube, but the game is finally getting a console release on both Xbox One and PS4. Dead by Daylight is an asymmetrical survival horror game where 1 to 4 players take on the role of survivors and another player takes on the role of the killer. If you're playing as a survivor, your goal is to survive and escape, which to me can get a bit tedious at times. There are generators spread out across the map, and you need to repair them all and then find the switch that opens up your exit. Personally, I think running around turning on these generators just takes a bit too long, and it's just a little too tedious. And then of course, when you're playing as the killer, you need to kill all the survivors before they escape, and then sacrifice them to some weird-ass spider god in the sky, which I don't really understand what's going on up there. I still haven't completely wrapped my head around it, but I don't know, maybe you're just not supposed to get it. There are a fair amount of different ways that the game can play out, seeing that there are different perks that you can equip to each survivor, and each killer has their own skill set, and they all play differently. Each map is also procedurally generated every game as well, which is cool, so you really don't get to learn the map because it's different every time. Although I do wish the map looked a little bit better. They're kind of boring, and it only seems like they make use of like a few different assets, so while every time the map is different, it kind of looks the same, and it's also just not totally nice and pleasant to look at. But it still is fun, especially if you have friends to play with. But me, personally, I think I'd rather play Friday the 13th. I know that game is plagued with server issues right now, but it's still just a better gameplay experience. For me anyway. But Dead by Daylight is still a lot of fun. It's definitely worth checking out. And next, number 2, we have Wipeout Omega Collection, which collects Wipeout HD, Wipeout HD Fury, and Wipeout 2048 all in one package. Now, I don't think I need to get into too much detail about what the game actually is. It's been out for years. It's a really fast-paced racing game where you're racing these cool spaceship-looking vehicles. But what's really important to talk about with this game is what they've done with this collection. They've completely reworked all the game's textures, and the game makes full use of the PS4 Pro. With the Pro, you can run it checkerboarded, which is how most games get to 4K on PS4 Pro, or they claim that you can run it at native 4K, which is pretty impressive for a console game. The game also runs at 60 frames per second on both PS4 and PS4 Pro, and I don't know if any of you have seen this game in person yet, but wow, this game looks great. It's stunning. especially on the PS4 Pro. I would say that the two best examples of what the PS4 Pro is capable of is Horizon Zero Dawn and this. So if you have a nice 4K TV and a PS4 Pro and you really want to put that console to use, this is definitely something to check out. And finally, at number 1, we have Nex Machina, which is a sci-fi twin-stick shooter from the people over at Housemarque. It was released this month on both PC and PS4. This is totally a revamp or reimagining of Robotron 2048, and they actually brought on Eugene Jarvis, who worked on Robotron as a consultant. The twin-stick shooting controls are super tight and responsive, which is good because the game throws a lot at you. You'll be dodging projectiles from enemies, while also working to save the humans that are running around, which give you point multipliers, and taking on wave after wave of enemies. And that's how the game plays, taking on waves of enemies until you move on to the next level, and each enemy type is different, so you'll have to use different strategies depending on what enemies are after you. Each level ends with a boss battle that is actually pretty challenging, and they shoot out a wall of bullets that you need to combat with precise movement. And while they are challenging, the boss battles are also very fun, which is definitely a plus. Now technically the game is short and you can beat it in one sitting, but the replayability here is through the roof. You're just getting such a good quality game that you're not going to want to stop playing. There is co-op that does seem a lot of fun, but it's only local co-op, so there's no online play, which is a bummer because this game would be so much fun to play with a friend. And I don't actually have friends that come over my house, so I didn't get to experience a co-op yet, which is, you know, kind of lame. But I did spend my entire weekend playing this game, and I highly recommend it. If you're in the mood for just a classic feeling arcade style game, this is definitely something that you're going to want to pick up. And those are 5 smaller yet awesome games that came out in June 2017. But I want to hear from you guys. Have you played any of these games yet? Do you plan on checking out any of them? And are there any other smaller games that may have came out that we missed? Let us know down in the comments. And as you guys know, hitting that like button really helps us out, and if you're not subscribed, now's a good time to do so because we put out videos like this every single day, and the best way to get them is with a subscription. Once again, I'm Andrew the New Guy. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time right here on gameranx.